So today we're catching kings. This is actually one of my favorite types of fishing trips. But before we actually get into the actual fishing, I kind of want to do the talk, right? So if you're from the PNW, you probably know what I'm about to say. But it's just kind of worth thinking about as we kind of like fish for these fish, right? So Chinook salmon are actually listed as threatened. So they were listed as threatened in 1999, 2005, and they're actually currently listed as threatened. The reason for that is that their population has decreased by 90%. So only 10% of the population that existed about 40, 50 years ago exists today. And on top of that, of the 37 original populations of Chinook salmon, only 22 remain. So that means that 15 types of Chinook salmon have actually already been permanently removed from the planet. They are extinct. And that's bad enough. That's already a pretty depressing statistic. But on top of that, we actually have these special orca whales around, so the resident orcas, so the southern resident orcas, they're actually usually called. And the issue with them is they actually eat exclusively fish. And of the fish that they eat, about 80% of that is Chinook salmon. So this really is whale food that we're fishing for. So the type of food that our orcas eat. And that's really a problem because there's only 73 remaining today. So as of, I think it was about 2000, maybe 1999, there was close to 100. And as of today, it's actually down to 73. So about a 25% decline in the population. And because of that, they are listed as critically endangered. They're a critically endangered species of animal. Now, in response to that, I guess it's Department of Wildlife just increased the viewing distance of southern resident orcas to 1,000 yards. So historically, it's always been 300 yards from the sides and back, and then 400 yards from the front. About 2 years ago, there was actually an emergency regulation put in place that prohibited viewing from within 1,000 yards. But that's actually going to go permanently into effect starting January 1st, 2025. Well, some of the things that I do is use smaller hooks. So the reason I use smaller hooks is that it's less likely to penetrate the fish's brain or eyes or gills, which actually can be fatal and would result in wasted fish if it happens to be, under 22 inches or wild in an area where wild retention is not allowed. So because of that, I use smaller hooks. I try to keep a finger on the line, to basically detect shakers. Obviously, you don't want to drag a shaker around for a long time. Eventually, it'll exhaust itself to death, and that's just sort of, again, a wasted fish. So I try to fish for them kind of consciously. I'm actually fishing in this area because the retention limit is actually 2. And the fish can either be hatchery or wild also. So that indicates to me that the population of Chinook is relatively healthy here. Because it's relatively healthy here, I don't mind harvesting one. My goal is to harvest one fish today. So with that, let's actually get fishing. So this is how I fish for Chinook salmon. All right, you're gonna have to forgive the squeaky pedals for this part. For some reason, I just developed this squeak in the pedals, in the last day or so. So we're definitely gonna get some squeaking on this. So as usual, 40 feet of monofilament. So this is a 25-pound monofilament going to a basically 30-pound braid mainline. This is a bead chain, snap swivel, 11-inch flasher board. This side glows. I think the glow is actually super important. And then on this side we have what's called an agitator. You don't really need an agitator, but I kind of like it. I think it makes noise in the water, something like that. And then I kind of prefer spoons. Spoons seems to work a little bit better for Chinook. So this is what I'm going to be using today. Little bit of scent on each side of it. One thing I actually don't like about spoons is that I tend to catch a lot of shakers, so like small fish, So because of that, sometimes if I'm catching shakers, I'll actually put on a hoochie. Hoochies work just about as well, and you get to use 2 hooks with a hoochie, which means that you might actually be able to hold the fish on a little bit better. So the water that I'm looking for is, like, in the morning, it's usually about 85 to 100 feet. As it gets brighter and brighter, and as the sun comes up, I actually target more like 100 to 140 feet. And because of that, I actually need 300 feet of braid. So there's 300 feet of braid on my Downrigger. I really don't know how you could do this without a Downrigger. I actually tried using a diver today, like a 100-foot diver, and unfortunately I actually ended up snagging someone's line because it was so far behind the boat. They were super nice about it, but that was a total jackass move, and I'm very sorry about that. So I would advise not using divers in these kind of close quarters fishing conditions. But basically just let go. Oh, I'm going to let the line out behind me. I'm going to try to pedal to minimize the squeak. That squeak's a seagull, it's not the pedals. Alright, clip in. And I advise clipping all the way in because it's a real nuisance to have to reel back in if it comes unclipped on its own. And now here's where things get a little technical. What I actually want to do is pump the bottom. So I actually want to hit the bottom with my downrigger, just kind of like bounce it off the bottom and then lift it up. That's kind of the idea. So I'm in 125 feet of water. There, I just thumped bottom, and now I'm fishing. So the idea, as I'm letting out the cable, like as I'm letting out the downrigger and letting out the line, I'm keeping tension on both, and what I'm feeling for is just like a thump. I'm also going less than trolling speed, so my typical trolling speed is between 1.5 and 2 miles an hour. This is slow, you know. And basically, as I'm letting out the downrigger, I'm going like 1 mile an hour. That way, as I speed up, it just basically naturally lifts it up in the water column just a little bit. And I find that I'm the most successful when I'm about 20 or 30 feet off the bottom. Right now I'm actually going into the current, which is fine, but with going into the current, make sure to go very slowly. If you go too fast, it's going to pick it way off the bottom and you're not going to be kind of in the fish, basically. In the summer, there can be suspended fish. I've actually heard that some of the bigger Chinook that get caught are actually caught in the 40 to 50 foot depth in the water column. But I think you're most likely to succeed if you're kind of hugging bottom, at least close to bottom. You don't have to be like on the bottom, but fairly close. And yeah, when trolling, I just make sure to make lots of turns. So I'm turning left, turning right, I speed up, I slow down. And really what you're trying to do is put some action on the bait, right? That's especially true for spoons. I don't know if it matters that much for hoochies, but I can say for sure for spoons, one of the most effective things that you can do is just stop. But that's actually a really effective way to actually trigger a bite, because often they'll be following the lure for, I don't know, half a mile or something like that. They'll be there for a while, and then what you have to do is put some kind of stimulant on the bait, some kind of trigger. So it's actually really effective to do like a really quick speed up. So there I was doing 1.5. Forgive the squeaking, but now I'm doing about 2.5. And then what that basically does is just flutter it up in the water column, and that definitely mimics a bait fish getting away. This is where I lose most of them. Keep pressure on. There it is. Wow, that fish went on a run. 260 feet of line out right now. $130 feet of line out. We covered half of it. It's definitely giving me a little more trouble than any so far this year. Thank you. hopefully you found this helpful and you know, entertaining. Obviously, seeing a guy catch a big fish in a kayak is always kind of fun. But I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Once I get to 1,000, I'm going to split the proceeds between the channel itself. So, you know, better bait, better cameras, that kind of stuff. And then an ocean conservation organization called Oceana. So eventually, likes, views, and subscriptions to this channel will actually result in dollars spent on ocean conservation. So please do like and subscribe below. Thanks for watching.